What is going on, everybody, YouTube Nation out there? Chris Pearson with you for the fourth edition of the season of Tracking the Madness. Now, I don't know if you guys saw on my Twitter, this video, by the way, is now live. I just tweeted out that I just did that, and if you guys follow me on Twitter, you know the kind of the breakdown for this week. We are now less than a week away from the big day from Selection Sunday. So it is very exciting. It's literally crunch time for a lot of these teams. And already we've had a lot of exciting stuff happen with the conference tournaments. We've had a surprise out of nowhere in the Ohio Valley tournament with Austin Peay winning the conference tournament and the automatic bid, and they'll probably end up in Dayton in the first four. We've had a weird quirk in the Atlantic Sun in a way where an ineligible team in Stetson made the tournament final, but in the end, Florida Gulf Coast won the game and got back to the tournament. Yale is in the tournament for the first time in 54 years, I believe. So it has been already wild. We have three more tournament versus. Oh, by the way, the Valley final one ending in a wild fashion with Northern Iowa winning at the buzzer. It has already been great already. I can't wait to see what happens this week, to see how much my projections, and I'm sure many others, are going to change here throughout all this week. So here's kind of the breakdown really for me this week. I'm going to have a projection and a video today, which is what you're seeing now. Also, I'm going to have just a projection on Wednesday, probably early in the day on Wednesday. Then Friday morning, I'm going to have another projection and video here on YouTube and my Twitter. The link will be posted there as well. And then also there'll be my final projection will come probably on Saturday morning, or maybe even Saturday evening. I haven't debated yet. I believe I posted Saturday evening, but I'm not 100% certain. So check back on that. It'll probably be Saturday evening. I'm leaning toward that. Saturday evening will be the final projection with kind of projections based on how I feel Sunday's conference final games will go before Selection Sunday actually happens. And then, of course, as always, the last Tracking the Madness video I do, of course, will always be the live gut feeling bracket fill out. I play multiple brackets online on Tournament Challenge, and this is really a good a year as any to play multiple because really a number of teams can win the tournament this year. It's that wild and crazy. But then I have the live bracket fill out, and that will probably be probably on Monday, the day after the actual Selection Sunday bracket comes out. So I'll probably do that on Monday. That's how I'm leaning right now, but if that changes, I will certainly let all of you know. So that's really how the breakdown's going to go this week. I believe there's three more conference final games tonight. We've got the MAAC final between Iona and Monmouth, and boy, when those two teams get together, it's usually a lot of fun or a lot of, let's just say, interestingness. I don't think that's even a word, but you know what I mean, especially when we had the brawl the first time around those two teams played. So that will be entertaining. We have the Southern final between Chattanooga and East Tennessee State, which should be very entertaining as well. Those are two teams that can really score a lot of points, get up and down the floor. So that should be a fun one as well. And I believe we have one other final. Let me double check that just to be certain. Yeah, we've got the Colonial final also tonight between Hofstra and UNC Wilmington. I believe all of these finals have the top two seeds facing each other. So these have been those conferences have been pretty straightforward, to say the least, unlike some of the other conferences we've seen earlier this week. So a lot to discuss here, a lot to break down, at least towards the projection. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in to that as well. So let's start off first with the top of my bracket, which is the South region. The regional semifinals would be in Louisville. My top seed overall is the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, what they've been able to do throughout this season, throughout these past 12 years, has been nothing short of amazing. 12 straight conference titles out of the Big 12. They are just Perry Ellis, the players they have there, of course, Bill Self as coach. They have just done an outstanding job. They will definitely be a fun team to watch come tournament time. And I have them taking on Florida Gulf Coast. As I mentioned, the Atlantic Sun champs pulled it out. just absolutely destroyed top seed North Florida on their floor by 30-some points. It may not be the Dunk City of a couple years ago with Andy Enfield coaching that team and being as entertaining as they were, making that run to the Sweet 16, but to see this team even back in the field is awesome. So we'll remember that, and we'll see what they can, if they have an encore for us this time around. And Kansas, if they do draw Kansas, traditionally, remember we've talked about on here before, the early exits to the higher seeded teams. Now, of course, this would be a unique scenario because a 6 has never beaten a 1. But again, if it were any year for it to happen, this could potentially very well be the year that it happens, where a 16 seed does knock off a 1. So it very well could be this year. 8-9 matchup here. I have Colorado out of the Pac-12. The Buffs are pretty much a lock at this point to make the field. I really can't envision a scenario where they miss the field. The Pac-12 pretty much is going to get a lot of teams in the tournament field. There's really only uncertainty at this point with maybe USC. Was really the only really uncertain team at this point. I think Oregon State's okay at the end of the day. I think Colorado's okay. Cal's a lock. But Colorado for me, I think is okay here on the 8 line. And I have them taking on Wichita State. Yes, I do have the Shockers in the tournament field for now. Now, obviously, that could change depending on the outcomes of a lot of these other conference tournaments. Wichita State is going to be a team that's very much going to be sweating, I believe, come Selection Sunday. They're going to be watching all these conference tournaments close to the week because the Shockers, yes, they have a very good record. They won the regular season in the Missouri Valley Conference, and that was all well and good. But really, they only have the one top 50 win over Utah to really write home about. And outside of that, they don't have any other marquee wins. They've been dealing with a couple injuries to their top guys. They were without Fred VanVleet for a while. The committee's going to have to look into that. What kind of team were they without him? And then the loss to Northern Iowa in the semifinals in the quarterfinals. It was semifinal of the Missouri Valley tournament. So, you have to really kind of look into that to know where you have the Shockers. And a lot of people already, and I've heard, have really already counted the Shockers out. I know some people still have men, some people still have them out. They will definitely be a hotly debated team in that committee room come Selection Sunday. So just keep that in mind as we're going along here. But for now, I have them in safe for now on that 9 line. But certainly, depending on these other tournaments, that could certainly change. 5-12, Texas A&M out of the SEC. I think the Aggies are a lock. They have played a lot better basketball of late. There was a brief time where we kind of panicked about Texas A&M. They kind of were in a little bit of a mini slump. We were wondering, were they not a team as good as advertised they were at the start of the year? But they've started to look better of late, and they're starting to get the wins back up again. So I think they're going to be okay. I haven't taken on Little Rock. They've run the table in the Sun Belt this year. Their RPI continues to go up. I believe their RPI is like at 35 right now. They continue to be, and some are saying that potentially if they don't win the Sun Belt tournament, they could potentially get in that at-large mix. I'm not so sure on that because I don't think they have, and I don't think they have any quality wins to speak of. Well, I take that back. I think they've beaten a few teams. They've beaten Tulsa. They've beaten a fellow bubble team in Tulsa, so that's at least saying something. They also beaten San Diego State, but San Diego State's RPI, I think, is down below 50, so it's not a top 50 win anymore. But they also have 3 bad losses on their slate. So, and their RPI is right at 50 right now. So, a very interesting case if Little Rock were to not win the Sun Belt, but I don't think they would warrant an at-large berth. So, I think Little Rock just needs to do the safe thing for them and win the Sun Belt Conference tournament to have really any hope of making the field. But right now, I think they're looking pretty good. I think they would be a potentially very dangerous 12 seed potentially. And then the 4-13, Duke out of the ACC, I dropped them back down to a 4. Carolina got revenge, beat them in Durham, so I moved Carolina back up in the seed line a little bit, especially now the fact that they've already, I think, won the ACC regular season outright. So I've moved them back up a couple seed lines. So I've moved Duke down back a little bit from where I had them the last time I did a bracket. So I have Duke back on the 4 line out of the ACC, and I haven't taken on Hofstra. I do have Hofstra winning tonight's Colonial final between UNC Wilmington. I know it's going to be a very entertaining game. These two teams have been at the top of the league all for most of the year, battling back and forth between who has the top spot in the league. But I think Hofstra really is the more entertaining team. I watched Hofstra play a couple times this year, and they really get up and down the floor. They're a very fast-paced, tempo team, and I think maybe they could even be a scare for a team if they end up on that 13 line. They could be potentially a dark horse team. The Colonial team that gets to the tournament always seems to be a surprise. It happened with VCU a couple years ago, and they were in the Colonial and got to the Final Four. It happened with George Mason out of the Colonial. So I think Northeastern, either won a game or gave a scare to a first-round team, I believe, last year, a couple years ago. So the Colonial always has these very up-tempo, talented teams that could be a surprise. So, but I have Hofstra winning tonight. I think even though if Wilmington were to win that game, they'd probably end up on the same seed line, based on the RPIs very, very similar to each other. Bottom half of the South region, 6-11. Sorry about that. I have Texas out of the Big 12. Again, the job that Shaka Smart has done with the Longhorns has been nothing short of amazing. He's put together an outstanding team at Texas. They're going to be a fun team to watch in the tournament. I'm taking on Temple. The Owls currently leading the American. Looks like they're going to win. I believe they already clinched the outright regular season title. So now the only thing is, can they win the conference tournament and get into the field? Because if they don't, Temple's resume is really not all that impressive. If I take a look here at Temple, they have 3 top 50 wins, but here's the thing. They swept Cincinnati, but Cincinnati is, again, kind of one of those fellow bubble teams that really isn't. I mean, if I have Cincinnati right now kind of safe for now, kind of on that 9 line right now is where I have Cincinnati, and that's, all well and good. It is a top 50 win because Cincinnati's RPI is at 40, but the bigger thing, the nice win for Temple is they beat SMU, and even though SMU isn't eligible for the postseason tournament because of their violations, that's definitely a win to hang your hat on. But they also have 2 bad losses. They lost to Memphis and they lost to East Carolina. So 3-6 against the top 50, 7-8 top 100, and they are a good team on the road at 7-4. But the numbers are a little low: 58 in the RPI, 65 in the strength of schedule. So Temple, it would probably be a safer thing for Temple if they go on and win the American Conference tournament, because if they don't, again, there's going to be another very interesting case come Selection Sunday. But right now I have them on that 11 line as the auto bid winner because they're the conference leader in the American right now. 3-14, West Virginia out of the Big East. Again, the Mountaineers, always an entertaining team to watch. These good Big 12 teams are always fun to watch out of the Big 12. So West Virginia and Bob Huggins on the 3 line. I have them taking on Chattanooga. I do have the Mocs winning the Southern Final tonight against East Tennessee State. But again, that is going to be a must-see TV conference final game because, again, both those teams really know how to get up and down the floor and can put up points in bunches if they get into a good offensive rhythm. But Chattanooga has pretty much run the table in the SoCon for most of the year. But East Tennessee State has been right there with them. Like last week of the regular season, they were only a game behind Chattanooga. So either way, it's going to be a fun, entertaining game tonight. But right now, I do have Chattanooga taking that spot. And again, if East Tennessee State were to win, they'd probably end up on a similar seed line as the Mocs. 7-10. This ended up this way because of some shuffling around, but I think this would be a very entertaining 7-10 matchup. I have Wisconsin out of the Big 10 on the 7 line. I think Wisconsin is a tournament lock at this point, and I also want to congratulate Greg Gard because it looks like that he's going to get the interim tag removed and become the full-time head coach at Wisconsin. So props to that for Greg Gard for the job that he has done, taking over when Bo Ryan abruptly basically left and said, I'm done, I'm leaving the team. Greg Gard has done an outstanding job with the Wisconsin Badgers in his absence, and they now are, to me, a lock to make the NCAA tournament field, regardless of what happens in the Big Ten tournament this week. I think Wisconsin is safely in the field. Just way too many top 50 wins on the ledger now, I think, for them to be left out of the field. So even though they have some bad losses from earlier in the year, I think Wisconsin is a good lock. I think they're okay. I have Wisconsin taking on Butler out of the Big East, and Butler is looking better and better every day. I have them right now where these 10 teams are as the last 4 buys. I think, Butler's starting to look more and more like a tournament team, and even though, they've gotten some decent wins of late, they've competed hard with some teams. If I look here at Butler's resume, you look at the Bulldogs, RPI of 46, a 21-9 record, Strength of schedule at 68. But here's the key: 4 top 50 wins, 4 and 7. They swept Seton Hall, and those look better every day because Seton Hall is looking more and more like a safe tournament team every single day with their good wins. So that's a big selling point for Butler, is that sweep of Seton Hall and the Purdue win they had to go on, and that looks better every single day because Purdue's RPI continues to climb, and they do have a win again over Cincinnati, which is nice. So 4 top 50 wins, and really only 1 bad loss on the schedule, and that was to Marquette. So to me, Butler's looking better every single day. I think eventually, if they can get some wins in the Big East tournament and they don't stumble on the way, I think Butler's going to be okay in the long run. Right now, for me, I think Butler is a pretty safe 10 seed. So, but I would love to see a Wisconsin-Butler matchup. Those are 2 gritty teams that get after it, play hard, go for the ball. I think that'd be a very low-scoring defensive game, but I would love to see that opening round matchup. And then 215, Virginia out of the ACC. I had them on the 2 line. A lot of people debating about Virginia, whether or not they're a 1 or a 2. I think with them in North Carolina, it's kind of a toss-up between the 2. I have Carolina on the 1 line. I think they've gotten back to that point where they deserve it, considering the fact they're going to win the ACC regular season title. So I think that's why I put Carolina on the 1 line. I have Virginia on the 2. So still a very good team, still a very solid, well-rounded team that's potentially could make a deep run to the tournament field. I am taking on Stephen F. Austin. Again, the Lumberjacks out of the Southland has become pretty much a given. They run the table every year, undefeated in conference tournament. I believe the only team to run the table undefeated in conference play this season was the Lumberjacks of Stephen F. Austin. So again, congrats to SFA. They had the upset a couple years ago when they knocked off VCU as a 12 seed in the first round. So, and then I think they gave the 4 seed at least a little bit of trouble. I believe that was UCLA, all they could handle in the next round. So this SFA team is dangerous. They could potentially be a tough out for a team. So don't fall asleep on the Lumberjacks as well if they win the Southland Conference tournament. All right, West Region. Top seed here, I have Oklahoma out of the Big 12. Again, Buddy Hield. The job the Sooners have done this year has been nothing short of outstanding. The Ford number 1 is going to be really, really tricky. I think the top 3 are pretty much going to be locks. You got Kansas, of course. Villanova is going to be up there. And I have Carolina, or you can make a case for Virginia. But then the Ford number 1 is going to be, again, usually, and it is wide open. But right now I do have Oklahoma there. And I am taking on the winner of one of the first 4 games at Dayton. I have Austin Peay here out of the Valley. Obviously, the Governors are likely going to end up in Dayton without an amazing run through the Ohio Valley tournament. 4 wins in the 4-day period as a number 8 seed, including knocking off the top 2 seeds in Belmont in a double overtime thriller, and then beating Tennessee Martin in the final by 10. In fact, Tennessee Martin swept them in the regular season, so that was a nice way for the Governors to get revenge on the Skyhawks there. So huge for Austin Peay. Congrats on them for a great run, and now they get a chance to play in the big dance. And I have taken on Texas Southern, obviously the conference leaders out of the SWAC. They've been the conference leaders for pretty much all season. The job that Mike Davis has done there has been absolutely impressive, and they have tournament experience, so they get to play in Dayton again in all likelihood if they win the conference tourney. So that's where they would end up on the first day. 8-9 here. South Carolina out of the SEC. South Carolina certainly has been an interesting case out of these past couple weeks. South Carolina's RPI has dropped significantly here. So they're falling on the seed line a little bit. They are now down to an 8. But you look at their resume here, 24-7 record. Their RPI has dropped to 53, so that's a little bit precarious. And that strength of schedule at 123 certainly does not help their cause either. But I still think South Carolina is safe because, again, they're in that upper tier of the SEC, which is a very strong conference. The 2 top 50 wins over 2 fellow tournament teams in Vanderbilt and Texas A&M. 8-4 against the RPI top 100 is very, very impressive. And yes, they do have the 3 bad losses to Tennessee, Missouri, and Mississippi State. That does hurt a little bit. But I think for now, as long as South Carolina does not go out early in the SEC tournament, I emphasize early, if they don't go out early, if they get a couple wins, I think they'll be okay. I think, again, they're in a better position than a lot of teams right now as well. And it's the same with St. Bonaventure, who I have South Carolina facing here in the State 9 matchup. St. Bonaventure has really risen the ladder over these past couple of weeks. They have really looked more and more like an NCAA tournament team. And their RPI is now pretty much up along the upper echelons. I believe now it's at 28, I want to say. Yeah, RPI of 28, strength of schedule at 85. You've got 3 top 50 wins now, again, over likely tournament teams, a sweep of St. Joseph's, and then a win over conference leader Dayton. You do have the 3 bad losses to Siena, Duquesne, and LaSalle, but really it's more or less 2 because the Siena is hovering around that 100 RPI. So really it's the Duquesne and LaSalle losses that are really hurting or kind of a little bit dragging down St. Bonaventure's profile. But for the most part, the Bonnies tied for first in the A10, which is always a plus. 8-5 on the road, definitely a plus. So I think St. Bonaventure is looking really good right now. Again, they're safer now, but I think they're safer than I think a lot of people give them credit for. So I really like St. Bonaventure's chances to make the tournament going forward. 5-12, I have Arizona out of the Pac-12. Again, the Wildcats, always a dangerous team, always entertaining to watch out of the Pac-12. And I have them taking on Northern Iowa, the Missouri Valley Conference champions, winning the tournament in impressive fashion the way they did, knocking off Wichita State in the semifinal, and then beating Evansville in the final in that thrilling layup by Wes Washburn at the buzzer to win that game for Northern Iowa. And Northern Iowa really is a team you really can't fall asleep on because Northern Iowa has been very schizophrenic this year, to say the least. They're probably one of the most interesting tournament teams we're going to find this year because Northern Iowa is 4-1 against the RPI top 50. Let's remember that. They've beaten North Carolina. They've beaten Iowa State. And, oh, by the way, I believe they swept. They've got 2 wins, I believe, over the Shockers this year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they've beaten the Shockers twice. But here's the thing. This is a profile with 9, count them, 9 sub-100 RPI losses on it. 9 losses to teams with an RPI below 100. Illinois State, Richmond, New Mexico, Southern Illinois. Then he had the loss to Indiana State, Colorado State, Missouri State. And, oh, by the way, lost to Loyola of Chicago twice. This is a team where you don't know which Northern Iowa team is going to show up when they play a game. So it's going to be very, very tricky to see what kind of team we get out of Northern Iowa in the NCAA tournament. And then the 4-13 in the West, I've got Purdue out of the Big Ten. Again, the Boilermakers, always an entertaining team to watch as well, with the fact they're very much an inside-outside team with A.J. Hammonds and Isaac Haas in the middle, along with Caleb Swanigan, the Big Ten Freshman of the Week this past week. And then you've also got the outside shooters like Stevens and Thompson, Johnny Hill at point. And I have them taking on South Dakota State. I do have the Jackrabbits winning the Summit final. It's going to be them and IPFW in the final. Very, very entertaining matchup there as well. But I think South Dakota State is going to have a little bit of an advantage. I think their RPI is also higher as well, which is why I have them in this spot right now. Certainly that could change depending on the outcome of the final. But right now I have the Jackrabbits getting this spot out of the Summit League. Bottom half of the West region, I have the Baylor Bears at the 6th seed here out of the Big 12. Again, always a very entertaining team to watch with the Baylor Bears. Again, I mentioned any team out of the Big 12 is fun and entertaining to watch. They can put up points in bunches as well. I have them taking on San Diego State, who's pretty much run the table in the Mountain West this year. Again, they're probably the Mountain West most likely shot at a bid. If they don't win the conference tournament, though, their profile really is not that great enough, I think, really to warrant an at-large because, again, their RPI is hovering in that 40 to 50 range, 42 RPI right now, 72 strength of schedule, but really they only have the 1 win against California to hang their hat on. They're 1-4 top 50, 4-7 against the top 100. They only have the 1 bad loss of it, but that was to 297 RPI San Diego. So really that really kind of hurts San Diego State a little bit in some respect. So I think it'd be the best thing for San Diego State to go out and win the Mountain West Conference tournament to really be safe about their tournament prospects, because otherwise, again, it's going to be one of those interesting cases on Selection Sunday where do we look at what they did in the regular season in order to warrant that large berth, or what they didn't do with their opportunities they had down the stretch. 3-14 here in the West. Indiana out of the Big Ten here is your number 3 seed. The outright regular season Big Ten champions have been playing absolutely amazing basketball of late. Yogi Ferrell, the job that Tom Crean has done. I think last year we were talking that Tom Crean was potentially going to get fired, and now here he is with what he has, the team that he has, really turning it around, playing amazing basketball and winning the Big Ten regular season title. And they topped it off last night with a huge win at home over Maryland. So big, big things for the Hoosiers. it'll be interesting to see how they can handle that pressure, being the #1 seed in the Big Ten tournament this week in Indianapolis. I am taking on Hawaii right now out of the Big West. Hawaii is tied for first with UC Irvine right now, but they have a better record than the Anteaters right now, so that is why I have Hawaii in this spot. It's going to be interesting to see which – I mean, obviously those two teams are going to be the favorites to come out of the Big West. Some people are saying, what if the loser, does the loser have any chance of making it at large? And really, I'm going to say no. I really don't see a scenario where – because again, either of these teams have no top 50 wins to speak of, nor Hawaii or UC Irvine. Really, Irvine has no bad losses on the slate, but 3-8 against the top 100, a strength schedule at 144 does not help their cause. And an RPI, yes, the RPI is good at 67, but they'd have to have a lot break their way in order for them to really have any chance of getting an at-large look. And Hawaii is no better. An RPI at 93, a strength of schedule of 242, and no top 50 would speak of. And by the way, also a bad loss, a head-scratching loss to California Riverside. So I think whoever really wins the Big East tournament is going to be the only team that gets a tournament berth out of the Big West. 7-10 here in the West. Seton Hall out of the Big East. As I mentioned, the Pirates are looking more and more like a tournament team. I think they're pretty much close to a lock at this point. I think Seton Hall is very, very safe. The fact that I have them on the 7 line is saying a lot. Seton Hall, 4-5 against the RPI top 50. They've beaten Wichita State. And yes, while that win now may look a little bit shaky now because Wichita State is very much a bubble team, I think that win still looks okay. They have a season sweep of Providence, which is good. And the big thing is the win over Xavier. I think that win over Xavier got Seton Hall over the top and I think put them safely in the tournament field. And really, they only really now at this point they have no bad losses to speak of either, because now 7-7 against the top 100. They did lose to Long Beach State, but Long Beach State's RPI crept back up into the top 100 recently. And by the way, Seton Hall is also a good team on the road, 7-3 in true road games. So I think Seton Hall is looking very, very good right now as well for the NCAA tournament. I am taking on USC. Now, we thought a couple weeks ago that USC was a sure thing for the NCAA tournament, but boy, have they struggled of late. And as I mentioned now, it looks like they're the only team really that is really kind of a shaky situation in the Pac-12, which is why I have them on this last 4 buys spot right now as a 10 seed. If we look at USC, they ended up 9-9 in the Pac-12, 20-11 record, an RPI at 45, which is good. It's still within the top 50, but it's kind of in that shaky territory. But a good strength of schedule at 31. You have to look though at why USC is safe. They do have 6 top 50 wins, and these are really good wins. And they've beaten some good mid-major teams like Monmouth, Wichita State, and they beat Yale, the Ivy Rep. And they've also beaten 3 good teams in their conference: Arizona, which is the big one, Colorado, and fellow kind of bubble safe team Oregon State. So really good there. 11-11 against top 100. So it's right at 500. So that's kind of the real shaky thing. Plus the fact that they're not good on the road. USC is 3-7 in true road games. So that is very worrisome too. So USC, I think, in order to be really fully safe, is going to have to probably pull at least maybe 1 upset, if not 2 in the Pac-12 tournament. But for now, I think they're okay. But boy, they cannot really afford to really struggle or afford an early exit in the Pac-12 tournament. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very much a sweat, I think, for USC come Selection Sunday. And then the bottom half, the bottom matchup here, 215, Oregon out of the Pac-12. The Ducks have been outstanding all season. They're right now pretty much the class of the Pac-12. And I am taking on New Mexico State, who has been the class of the WAC all season long as well. The Aggies, again, also had that tournament experience before. They've represented the WAC before. So they are going to be, it looks like, unless they stumble in the WAC tournament, they're going to be the likely representative from the Western Athletic Conference. Midwest region, top seed here is Villanova. Again, out of the Big East. Again, they've just been such a good team over the years. But again, as I mentioned on the last episode, everyone's going to be worried about Villanova because of their previous early tourney exits. But this Villanova team has been playing so well this year. It's going to be hard to ignore the Villanova Wildcats when you're picking your bracket, because 8 top 50 wins this year, including a win over Xavier, a sweep of Butler, a sweep of Seton Hall, 10-2 on the road. I mean, this team is just, Jay Wright's team is just playing so well. And again, it'll be interesting to see how they perform in the Big East tournament leading up to the NCAA tournament. But for now, Villanova is playing like one of the best teams in the country. I have them taking on one of the winners of the first four, Wagner out of the Northeast or Hampton out of the MEAC. Again, both these teams have pretty much been the class of the conference all year. Wagner has not stumbled yet in their conference tournaments. They've looked very impressive in their early wins, and Hampton's been leading the MEAC for most of the season. So right now they would get the automatic berth out of those two conferences, and I have them playing in the first four in Dayton. 8-9 here. Two really good teams here that have played well of late. I mentioned Oregon State out of the Pac-12. The Beavers looking more, again, like a tournament team of late. I have them here safe for now in the field on the 8 line out of the Pac-12, taking on Cincinnati out of the American. Let's take a look at Cincinnati because they are also going to be an interesting case come Selection Sunday. We look at Cincinnati, 22-9 overall, 12-6 in conference play. RPI, though, at 40, which is really, really solid, which is why I have them solidly in the field as a 9 right now. But a 76-strength schedule is good, not great. 2 top 50 wins, but very, very good wins against VCU, and they also beat SMU. So that's a big win for Cincinnati to hang its hat on as well. 7-8 against the RPI top 100. Not great, but decent. 6-6 in road games. And really the only knock on their profile is a loss to Memphis. So this is a team that's played really, really better basketball of late in the season. And I think that they are going to be another interesting case as we get down the line. As long as they play well in the American tournament, they're going to be okay. But going forward, they're going to be a team to watch. But for now, I think Cincinnati is definitely a very, very safe team. 5-12 matchup here. I have Iowa State out of the Big 12 on the 5 line here. The Cyclones, again, always one of those, again, entertaining teams to watch. The Big 12, up and down, get up the floor, play hard, go hard. That's any team out of the Big 12 really is one of those top-heavy teams. And I am taking on one of the first 4 winners here in Dayton. These now starting 2 of my teams that are on the last 4 in line. Tulsa out of the American and Syracuse out of the ACC. And I know a lot of people might think that's low for Syracuse here on the 12 line. But if you really think about it again, Syracuse is going to be a very interesting case for the committee. And I've said this because, again, they're going to have to evaluate this team when Jim Boeheim was suspended. But I look at Syracuse's profile, and it is very much a mixed bag. They were right at 500 in the ACC at 9-9. They were 19-12 overall. And their RPI is at 60. So that's a little bit abnormally high. Now, they do have a decent strength of schedule at 39, and they do have 4 very solid top 50 wins against St. Bonaventure, likely tournament team, Texas A&M, a lock tournament team, Duke, a tournament team, and Notre Dame, a tournament team. So 4 solid victories, but here's the thing that really weighs Syracuse down. 8-9 against the RPI top 100, below 500. 3-8 on the road. That's never a good indicator. And oh, by the way, this team also has 3 sub-500 losses to Georgetown, Clemson, and the real deal breaker to St. John's. So there are a lot of things that are really weighing this Syracuse profile down and a lot of factors to consider. So that is why I have them in this 12 group, on this 12 line right now, because that's my last team in the field, because there's just a lot, there's some things to like about Syracuse, but there's also things to not like. And it was very tough to kind of put them ahead of some of the other teams I have below on the first 4 out. But there were things with the first 4 out group of how they've been playing of late, which is why I have them below Syracuse. So that's why I have them where I have them right now. And then the 4-13, Kentucky out of the SEC. Always entertaining to watch Kentucky play, even though they're not the Kentucky emphasis question, capitalization letters, champion Kentucky of old. They're still a fun team to watch. They're still a very strong ball club. And I have them here on the 4 line. They're taking on Akron, currently leading the MAC, currently pretty much the top 2 in the group. I have them representing the MAC right now as the conference leader right now and the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. Bottom half of the Midwest region here, 6-11. I have 2 very strong, if you want to call them mid-majors here. I have Dayton out of the Atlantic 10, the Flyers. They have struggled of late. They've lost some games that they really were very much surprises to lose to. But I think for the most part, Dayton's still okay. I think Dayton is still a safe bet to make the NCAA tournament, regardless of what happens in the A-10 tournament. I think Dayton's going to be okay. They're not going to be in the first 4 this year, that's for sure. I think they're going to be safely in the field. I am taking on Valparaiso, again, I mentioned a very scary 11 seed out of the Horizon League. I think that Valpo is going to be a very scary potential dark horse team that could spring some upsets in the NCAA tournament. Like I said, I saw him playing person this year. Alec Peters is the leader of that team. If he gets going, look out. It's going to be very interesting to see, especially if Valpo wins the Horizon League tournament. They're going to be a tough team to watch going forward. Oh, excuse me. 3-14 here, still in the Midwest region, bottom half. Utah out of the Pac-12. Utah's looked very, very strong of late, just like Oregon. They very much had some impressive victories of late as well. They're looking like a very strong tournament team. And remember the name Jacob Podol. My gosh, he is a stud and a fun player to watch for the Utah Utes. So he might make some noise in the tournament as well. I've been taking on UAB, the 14th seed out of Conference USA. And remember, UAB was a 14th seed last year, and they pulled that stunning first-round upset of Iowa State. So it'll be interesting to see if they win the Conference USA tournament again, as they're expected, as the favorite to do, what they will bring to us this time around. So interesting to see what the Blazers will bring to the table. 7-10, former Big East rivals here going at it. Notre Dame out of the ACC against Providence out of the Big East. And again, Providence was a team we thought early in the year was a surefire thing. And now really of late, Providence has lost some games. Chris Dunn's been, either hurt or off a little bit. They really struggled of late. Look at Providence, 10-8 in the Big East, 22-9 overall. They do have 4 top 50 wins to their name, including big wins, probably two of the best wins of this group of teams on the 10 line, Arizona and Villanova, and they swept Butler. But here's the thing again that hurts Providence. The 3 bad losses on their profile and a very low strength of schedule. Their strength of schedule is at 66. They got swept by Marquette, and they lost to perennial Big East bottom feeder DePaul. So that is really troubling for the Providence Friars. But I think kind of like going back to Butler, I think they're one of the more safer teams on the 10 line right now. If they can win some games in the Big East tournament, I think Providence is going to be okay at the end of the day. But right now they're in a very, very tenuous position based on how they've played of late. So that is why they're in this position right now on the 10 line. And then the 2-15 here, Michigan State out of the Big Ten. Again, you never bet against Tom Izzo in March. Michigan State, is going to make a deep run in the NCAAs. Denzel Valentine, oh my gosh, what a player he is. So it is going to be a fun journey to see how Michigan State does in the postseason. I'm taking on Weber State out of the Big Sky, currently leading the conference. They get the auto bid right now. Montana certainly is in the mix for the spot as well, but right now I have the Wildcats there based on the fact they have a better overall record than Montana. I believe they tied for the conference regular season title this year, but I have Weber State getting a spot right now based on their regular season. Or no, they were a game ahead. I'm sorry. Weber State was a game ahead of Montana. So I have them getting spot right now based on the fact that they won the regular season title. And then finally, the bottom half here, the last region here is the East region. Top half, again, this is where I have North Carolina out of the ACC. I have them, of course, again, on the 1 line right now ahead of Virginia because of the fact that they have the regular season title all but wrapped up. So I have them here on the 1, and they've got nice, sweet revenge against Duke, which I always love seeing. So I have them there. I have them taking on Lehigh, currently the favorite to win the Patriot League right now. The top seed Bucknell was knocked out early by Holy Cross in another overtime thriller. So, and Holy Cross is facing Lehigh in the final. So this is going to be, just interesting to see again. Could we see another surprise team get in? We saw it with Austin Peay as an 8 seed. Could we see it with Holy Cross as the 9 seed to potentially get in? So, but right now I do have Lehigh. They're the 2 seed in the Patriot tournament. I have them being their Patriot representative right now, so I have them getting the spot right now as a 16 seed. 8-9, again, 2 very interesting mid-majors here, but I think our safe bets to be in, unless St. Mary's loses the West Coast tournament. St. Joe's out of the A10, I think, is a very safe team to be in. Even though, again, they've lost some games of late as well, but I think St. Joe's is looking good. Their RPI is like at 24, I believe. They still have a decent, still solid overall record. 24-7 record, 31 RPI, 2-4 top 50. 5-6 on the top 100, which again isn't great, but 9-2 in road games. Only the one bad loss to Duquesne. And oh, by the way, they have 2 decent wins. They've beaten Dayton, which is a huge win for them, and they also beat Princeton. Even though Princeton not likely go to the NCAA tournament because they didn't win the Ivy League, still Princeton has like a 31 RPI. So that's still, or I'm sorry, like a 30. I think somewhere in the 30s in the RPI, like a 34, 35, something like that. But so that's going to be another. I think St. Joseph's going to be safe at the end of the day. I think they're going to be okay as long as they don't stumble again in the A10 tournament, like a bad, like taking a bad loss there. I think the Hawks are going to be okay. So I have them on the 8 line, safe in the field. I am taking on St. Mary's, currently leading the West Coast regular season champions. Gale's looking impressive so far. The real debate with West Coast is whether or not Gonzaga is going to get into the field and whether that streak of 16 consecutive NCAA tournament appearances from Gonzaga is going to be snapped. Right now, I think it is going to be, because right now I have Gonzaga as my 3rd team out of the tournament field. I have them on the first 4 outline. They're certainly in the discussion with their good record and the fact they're playing well of late. But here's the thing, the big thing about Gonzaga. Gonzaga's no top 50 wins. They haven't beaten anybody. So it's really kind of a shaky situation. You're really looking more at Gonzaga on record alone and on merit than really their body of work. So that's why I think they're so high up. And the fact the bubble is shrinking all the time. So really you got to put somebody in there. Oh, let's put Gonzaga in there. So that's really kind of what it boils down to. So you got to put somebody in there. So that's why Gonzaga has a bit of a case, because they have a good record and their RPI is decent and somewhat strong, but their profile really doesn't have a whole lot. So it's an interesting case with Gonzaga. But right now I have St. Mary's getting the West Coast spot because of the fact they won the regular season title. 5-12, this could be a fun one. It's going to be fun whoever draws Monmouth. Cal out of the Pac-12, as I said, they're a lock. They're going to be in the field, but I have them playing Monmouth. I have Monmouth winning the MAC final tonight over Iona. I think it'd be a darn shame if Monmouth does not make the NCAA tournament, not just because of the fact that the bench does the whole celebration thing, and that's cool, but the fact this team is so entertaining and fun to watch. They have beaten some big-name competition this season. They beat USC. They beat Notre Dame. I mean, this team has really been very entertaining to watch this year, and they can show that they can hang with the top competition. So they're going to be, if they get into the tournament, you do not want to see them in your bracket on Selection Sunday in your region, because they are going to be a very scary out for whoever they face. And even if it's Iona, you don't want to have to face Iona either, because Iona can get up and down the floor with just as good as anybody. And AJ English and the job that he does, oh my gosh, he has been a fun player to watch for the Iona Gales. So no matter who comes out of the MAC, it is going to be a very tough out for whoever draws that team. So, but I think it'd be just a shame if Monmouth were not to get in, because not only the fact they're a fun team to watch on and off the court, but just how well they play and that they've beaten some top competition this year. And then the 4-13 here in the East, Maryland out of the Big Ten. Again, another, speaking of fun teams to watch, Maryland is certainly a fun one with Melo Trimble and how well he plays for the Terps. I have him taking on Yale. And again, big congrats to the Yale Bulldogs for finally breaking the drought in the Ivy League after 54 years since 1962 of not getting in. They had a chance to get in last year. They lost that heartbreaker to Dartmouth, and then they had to have the play-in with Harvard, and they lost. But now they finally were able to do it. So good on you, Yale. Nice to see you get in the tournament field. Have your chance here to make the big dance. So I have them here as a 13 seed in the East region. Bottom half of the East on the 6th line, here's the Iowa Hawkeyes out of the Big Ten. Iowa, again, a very solid team, and at the start of the year looked like a potential really high-seeded team. But again, some losses of late, including a loss at Ohio State, that to me is still a bit of a head-scratcher. But still, Iowa's profile is very solid. They do, RPI and SOS in the 20s, very good. 5 top 50 wins, including, a win over Wichita State, a sweep of Michigan State, and a sweep of Purdue, and that's good. And the one bad loss on the profile to Penn State. And Ohio State really was not a bad loss, because Ohio State is, technically in like the 70s in RPI. And Iowa's a decent team on the road, 6-5 in road games. So they're going to be, a tough out regardless where they end up on the seed line. But they're going to be a challenging team nonetheless, because they can beat you in so many different ways. And I have them taking on, again, one of the first 4 winners here. My other 2 teams on the last 4 in line, Vanderbilt out of the SEC and UConn out of the American are my other two teams on the last four. And let's take a look at their profiles. I think Vanderbilt really, though, is looking a lot safer than UConn. Vandy has played very much like an NCAA tournament team of late, but here's the thing. Their profile still really lacks a lot of quality wins. Their RPI is right at 49, so right in that top 50 range. Strength of schedule at 28, that's very good. But only 2-7 against the top 50. That's the big concern when it comes to Vanderbilt. But those two wins are very good wins against tournament locks, Texas A&M and Kentucky. So you've got the two best wins in your conference, but you also have two bad losses to Arkansas and Mississippi State. And oh, by the way, Vandy not very good on the road, 3-9 in true road games. So that really kind of, again, weighs that Vanderbilt profile down a bit. But I think if they can get at least maybe one big win, if not two, in the SEC tourney, I think Vanderbilt is pretty much all but a lock. So I think for now, they're looking okay. Better than some other teams where they fall on the cut line, but Vandy could really use a couple more big wins to make sure they can be safely in the NCAA tournament field. As for UConn, UConn has certainly played well of late. When we look at their profile here, 21-10 record, RPI at 56, strength of schedule at 58. So again, decent numbers there. They have two very good wins, though. That's the thing about UConn, though. Two good wins. Texas, a great win, and SMU certainly also a great win. But they've missed a lot of opportunities. 6-10 against the top 100. UConn had more opportunities out there to strengthen this profile, and they did not take advantage of them. So that's kind of been the big thing with UConn. If UConn does not stumble early in the American tournament, again, if they get a couple more wins under their belt, I think UConn can be okay. But it just depends on what happens with the American tournament and these other conference tournaments that are going on. Very tenuous spot to be in when you're on that bubble line. 3-14, Miami out of the ACC. The Hurricanes have racked up a lot of top 50 wins this year. Their team always entertaining to watch as well. The job that Jim Larrañaga has done there has been outstanding. And I have them thinking on Stony Brook out of the America East. Right now, the Seawolves, the top seed there. Very much helped by the fact that Albany, the number 2 seed, and really a thorn in their side, was upset by Hartford. So that was huge for Stony Brook. I believe they are playing Hartford, in fact, tonight in a semifinal. And then New Hampshire and Vermont are playing in the other semifinal. So big things for Stony Brook there. They will likely be the favorite to now win the conference tournament and represent the America East in the big dance. 7-10, Texas Tech out of the Big 12. I still think the Red Raiders are safe, even though they've had a couple losses or two here and there of late. I still think they're an okay team. They've got enough top 50 wins, I think, that they're not going to miss the tournament field. So I think the Big 12 is going to get 7 teams in the field for sure. And I have them taking on VCU. And I have tweeted a lot about VCU in the past couple weeks because I've watched the Rams a couple times of late. And I really firmly believe that VCU is an NCAA tournament team. I think the Rams, I don't think they're going to be discussed much. I think they're safe because, again, the fact that they tied for first in the Atlantic 10, a 22-9 record, very good. 41 RPI, that's not great, but it's certainly better than other teams on the cut line. The strength of schedule, yes, is low. It's at 70. But here's the thing about VCU. They play well either at home or road. They're 7-4 in true road games. They have 6 top 100 victories. They have 2 very good wins against likely tournament teams in St. Joseph's and St. Bonaventure. They do have 2 bad losses. They lost to UMass and they lost to George Mason. But I tell you what, it's just so entertaining and fun to watch VCU play. And I think, again, kind of like a Monmouth, it would be a shame, I think, if VCU did not get in the tournament field because I love their style of play. I love how hard they compete. And I think really their body of work, I think, is okay and is well enough, I think, to warrant inclusion in the field. So I have them on this 10 line as those last 4 buys. Certainly, again, that could change depending on other outcomes. But I think VCU is in a really good position. Again, I think maybe an upset in the A-10 tourney would be a huge thing to get them closer to lock status. Maybe even getting to the quarter, at least the quarter or semifinals. But I think VCU is, I think, again, these teams in the 10 line, I think, are really, really looking good. Really, the most tenuous 10 team right now on that 10 line is USC. I think Butler's in a really good position. I think Providence is in a really good position. And I think VCU, if I had to rate them, I'd say Butler, Providence, then VCU, and then USC. I think is where I would rate those teams on the 10 line as to how safe they are. So I think VCU is okay for now, but you really can't afford a slip up down the road. And then finally, 2-15 here. Xavier out of the Big East. It has been so fun to watch the Xavier Musketeers compete this season out of the Big East. The job that Chris Mack does with that team has been nothing short of amazing. And with their players they have, Trevion Blewett has been a joy to watch as a player. And I have him taking on the rep out of the Big South, UNC Asheville. Won the final against Winthrop last night, so they are going back to the tournament. They've kind of been a mainstay the past couple of years representing the Big South and getting to the big dance. All right, so that is it for the projection. So again, let me just share real quick the where we sit on the cut line. Again, the last 4 byes: Butler, Providence, VCU, and then USC. Last 4 in: Vanderbilt, UConn, Tulsa, and Syracuse. And then right now the first 4 teams I have out of the field are Pittsburgh, Florida, Gonzaga, and Michigan. Those are the 4 teams right now that I have out there. A lot of teams also have on the list that I'm still kind of considering as well, based on depending on results in conference tournaments and whatnot. Kind of anywhere the teams that fall in that kind of 40 to 79 RPI range as well. But again, it just depends on where things stack up in the conference tourneys. All right, so that is it for this video. Again, I thank you guys so much for tuning in, for your support as always. Again, please feel free, once this video gets posted, if you have any comments, questions, anything you want, any teams you want to debate, teams you want to discuss, where you have teams on your cut line, your bubble teams. I always enjoy reading those as well. Please feel free to share that in the comments down below or on the discussion page as well. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in and following, subscribing. Thank you guys so much for that. So the next video then will come on Friday. The next projection will be on Wednesday as we get closer and closer to Selection Sunday. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, and I will see you live again. The projection, by the way, will be up Wednesday. I will put a link to it on my Twitter @Pearsonator. It will be on there on Twitter, and also to my Facebook link on my Facebook page as well. And then Friday, we'll be here again live Friday morning for another video and projection of Tracking the Madness. Thanks, guys. God bless, and enjoy the games.